not have babies. You're not the ones that can tell people how to have babies. You can baby. If they don't want to baby, don't baby. I'm like, okay, let's keep doing this. After a while, there'll be nothing left on earth. What will your legacy be? Your children. Your children. God says he wants godly seed out of marriage. Not well-behaved children. Godly seed. That's children that have the nature of God. What does that mean? Your children will be on fire for God. The Bible says your children will answer the enemy at the gate. The enemy. Before their children are 5, they know every word from their own religion. And you say King James is too hard for your children to learn. Go and check. The children, the enemies, they are teaching their children that you can ready to die for what you believe, bomb anybody, and die in the process. You know, there were these 2 children that my husband and I were paying their school fees when they were much younger. So we had this guy that used to. So we have what we call, I don't know, they're security guards, but they call them May guards in Nigeria. And I think it's a very apt name because they may guard you and they may not. So the guy was from the north and he was Muslim. So he had 2 children. And so my husband and I used to pay their school fees. Then eventually the mom had another one, a little boy. And so one day we were having a conversation. So the first 2, we used to bring them to church. You know, they started hearing the gospel and all of that. They even gave their lives to Christ, and at least that's what my husband believes. But me, somewhere at the back of my mind, I wasn't sure. Because when they go home, I don't know what their parents tell them. You see, let me tell you, as a mother, what you teach your children is different from what anybody teaches them anywhere, in church, in school, anywhere. Those 3 Hebrew boys, I keep asking myself, who was their mother? Who was Daniel's mother? That Daniel will be in the midst of all of those things and say, I will not defile myself with the king's meat. If I have to starve, I'll starve. What did their mothers tell them that they were bold enough to tell them that, oh king, we're not careful to answer you in this matter? If you say we'll not bow, even if we know our God is able to save us, even if he's not going to save us, we will still not bow. Do what you will. They increase the fire. They say, king, we are not going to bow. Don't bother. Don't even bother threatening. We're not going to bow. What did they tell them? What did they tell these boys that even though they were slaves? What did Jochebed tell Miriam? That if a 5-year-old girl was able to tell Pharaoh's daughter that, do you need a nursemaid that will bring you someone? She kept her family together. What did her mother tell her? Our firstborn cannot even look out for our younger ones. What did they tell Miriam? Oh, they're just children. What did they tell Miriam? That's why I say the Bible is so, you can't miss it if you read the word. Because the template is there. So God said to me, you are here saying, how can they do this, how can they? But that's what you're doing every day. Now, the second woman did something, which I hope we will all learn from. They said when she woke up in the morning, she took her baby to the light. She took her baby to the light. And she said, this is not my child. We'll take our children to the light of the word. And when you bring your children to the light of the word, you say, this is not my child. I remember my second daughter. So I had my second daughter, and then she started preschool. In Nigeria, you do preschool, then you do nursery, then you do start primary school. So by the time she started nursery school, her teacher said something to me. She said, every time I drop her in school, she would sit in that place, not talk to anybody, not say anything, till I come back to get her. So her teacher called me one day and said, I think she's a slow learner, or maybe she has a disability, we may need to check. I didn't say anything. Then the head of the school called me and said to me, it looks like, does she talk at home? Are you sure she's not, she might have a learning. I knew where they were going. They were trying to either say she was autistic or one thing, they would always label. So I didn't say anything to her. I took my child home. And then I started praying about it, and the Lord said to me, He said, your children will be taught of the Lord, and great will be their peace. So I said, a child that is taught of the Lord cannot but be intelligent. If Jesus is your lesson teacher, until you go no book, oh, I'm sorry. you have to be intelligent. And so I started speaking to her. I said, you have the mind of Christ. Christ was to write an exam. Will he fail? You have the mind of Christ. You are intelligent. You are smart. And then I asked God, I said, what else would I do? He said, pull out of that school. You see, it's not just to pray. God will give you actionable steps. He said, take out of that school. Because when you bring her home and tell her she has the mind of Christ, they take her to school and tell her you are a slow learner. So they are canceling out what you are doing. You have to be intentional. Now, that child, that same child, Mildred Okonkwo, when we go to school, prize giving day, best in English, Mildred Okonkwo, best in math, Mildred Okonkwo, best in science, Mildred Okonkwo, best in Mandarin, Mildred Okonkwo. So they tell her to stand. You know when you're doing presentation, they just say stand, because there's no need going back and forth. Why? Because I took my baby to the light. They were about to change my child. I said, this is not the child. And definitely not this one that I prayed for 8 years before God gave me. No, not this one. Not this one. God was very clear that this child will be known all over the world as the one Jehovah has blessed. Straight A+ kid. Low learner. What will be your legacy? Will you allow the world determine what you leave behind? Or are you going to take charge and determine what your legacy will be? The next generation is counting on us. We have to pattern for them, but we also have to pray for them. You cannot be a woman and not be an intercessor. You can't. How? How are you not praying? You will pray for your husband, you pray for your children, you pray for yourself. You will pray for your nephews, nieces, you will pray for your in-laws, you will pray for... You may even pray about your in-laws, but you'll be an intercessor. You will definitely pray. So there are certain things as a woman you can't even play with. You can't do marriage without prayer. Oh no, the reason why you are fighting so much with your husband is because instead of you to go and get strategy from God, you think you know it all. So you are saying, let me just explain it to him, he'll get it. No, he will not get it. He will argue even more. So you will go to God to get strategy. I remember when I first got married, and I'll close with this. When I first got married, I had this funny habit of, like I said, because I was very introverted. I had this funny habit of, if I'm upset about something, I'll just sulk and start acting up. You know when you're acting up, when you say, yeah, I will not keep malice, but you're keeping malice. You are not really talking to the person, but you're talking to him. Will you eat? What will you eat? And he says, he's asking, what's wrong? He said, nothing. Should anything be wrong? When you start doing all those funny things. So I had that very funny habit. So about a month into our marriage, or maybe even less, maybe like 3 weeks into our marriage, but I was upset. I can't remember what about, because like I said, because I'm very introverted, I'm also a perfectionist. So the little things get to me in a very different way. My husband is it's okay, it's not that deep. It was deep, very deep, and I kept digging deeper. Because I could not understand why he would mess up places and not pick up after him. That everything was a big deal. And so I remember that day I was very upset, and I went to pray about him. So I was praying and I was complaining, God, the man you gave me, Lord, look at you, have to do something. You have to do something. And then the Lord said to me, He said, you've been praying about your husband for weeks now, and nothing has changed. When are you going to start praying for him? Was a light bulb moment. Then I realized that there's a difference between praying about your husband and praying for your husband. And so God said to me, rather than complain, because that's all you are doing, whining, murmuring, and grumbling. But when he asks you, will you marry me? You say yes. So now it's me that gave you the husband. When are you going to stop grumbling and murmuring in my ear and start telling me what you want to see? And so I started praying for him. I became intentional about calling the things I wanted to see. So rather than saying, God, I don't like the fact that he's so messy, I would say my husband is very organized. And I would declare over him. And I would look for scriptures that Moses was this, I called that Moses, Abraham, everybody. I called everybody out of my husband. I was very intentional. Even things like self-control, even things like he would learn to dwell with me with understanding so that his prayers will not be hindered. I learned to pray. And that's one of the easiest ways. You know, another reason why prayer is so important? Because whether you like it or not, men are not externally motivated. You may learn this the hard way, but let me save you the years of struggle. Men are not externally motivated. That's why the Bible says that the heart of the king is in God's hands. Because it's God that controls him. This thing is decoration. It's for balance. It's not for hearing. Men, the one men have. No, it's not. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. This thing is for balance. It's not for hearing. Men don't hear from here. Men hear from here. So, the more you nag, the more this thing doesn't work. So what you do is you go to God, and you tell God what you want to see, and then God starts to stir it within him. Then he will come to you and tell you, you know, the other day I was just praying, I feel like I should start doing this. And your mind, the first thing you want to say is, I don't understand. Something I'll be there. No. You'll be very gracious because you and God have had a conversation. What you say to him now is that he's such a wise man, which is why you trust his leadership. So you say to him, you're such a wise man. This is why I love you and I trust your leadership. Who would have come up with this idea? Only you. And you walk away with wisdom. So, in closing, please remember, it starts with identity, but it ends with legacy. Who you are is important, but what you leave behind for your children to become is almost more important. Were you blessed?